Now here's almost a shocker. Almost. Swiss refiners confirm they have been unable to source enough gold to meet the 1 kilo refinery demand right now. I thought gold prices and silver prices were going so low that just signified that no one wanted them anymore. And I mean, isn't that what that meant? Or was it manipulation by the US government to trick you into thinking that, to hopefully push people away from gold and silver when in fact more people are buying it? Yeah, that's more like it. So it looks like, let's go down here a little bit and take a look at some of this. So they're showing this chart here. He says, speaking of money sloshing around looking for the latest trade, we've got to hand it to whoever had the foresight to front-run the non-farm payroll release with a gold flash crash seconds prior to the release. The chart from Nanex shows February 2014 gold trend contracts falling sharply 7 seconds before the official release of the non-farm payroll stats. So again, some big money, obviously a bank, knows the feds, knows the boys. 7 seconds before the report's released on non-farm payroll stats, gold is slammed. If the report was actually bad, gold would have risen, allegedly. But since the report was good, which is always faked anyways, gold is slammed. So you wouldn't take a gamble 7 seconds before it's about to be released if you didn't know for sure. And so that's how that happened. But so it says it's a big chart, so maybe a thumbnail would be best, along with a click here to enlarge statement. I can hardly wait to see who is going to replace what he calls on the case Bart Chilton on the CFTC. Ignoring the trading records behind prima facie market manipulation evidence like this really does demand a new do-nothing PR hack. But I digress. Swiss refinery conditions confirmed tight gold market back on October 26. Alasdair McLeod and Silver Doctor Weekly Metals and Markets broke the story that Swiss refiners were working 24/7 to fabricate new bars headed to China. We have further confirmation of incredible market tightness. This week, Alex Stanzik, the chief market strategist for the Anglo-Far East group of companies, was interviewed by Koos Jensen. He indicated that physical gold supply has never been tighter. You can click here to read the full interview over on the Gold We Trust website. The highlights include, which I'll read you a little bit of what he said. The purpose was twofold. First of all, they asked him, what was the purpose of your trip to Switzerland? The purpose was twofold. We go to Switzerland once a year as part of our governance. We're required to have an annual inspection of the gold. That was the main purpose of the trip. But in addition to that, we also like to talk to the refineries. It was my managing director of Anglo-Far East, Mr. Philip Judge, and Jim Rickards went with us. He sits on our advisory board. We met with the managing director of the largest refinery in Switzerland and spent about 2 hours talking to him. We learned some very interesting things. What's going on in the gold market as far as the price is, I think, very counterintuitive. Everybody understands, knows, and believes the price should be higher than it is, but it isn't. There's confusion in the marketplace, and there are two reactions. The reaction in the West is fear, confusion, and uncertainty. The reaction in the East is buying. Now, this gentleman we were talking to probably has a better idea of physical gold flow than anyone else globally. He sees what is coming from the mines, he sees what is coming from the UK and all over the world, as well as what's going on. As well as where it's going. He indicated the price didn't make sense because he has got so much fabrication demand. They put on 3 shifts now. They're working 24 hours a day, and originally he thought that he would wind down at some point. Well, they've been doing it all year. Every time he thinks it's going to slow down, he gets more orders. More orders and more orders. They have expanded the plant to where it almost doubles their capacity. 70% of the kilo bar fabrication is going to China at a pace of 10 tons per week. That's from one refinery. Now remember, there are 4 of these big ones, as in refineries, in Switzerland. And all I can really think about as I read that to you is, again, what Lindsey Williams has just said regarding the global currency reset. And then I found that article, thanks to someone sending it to me, that was written by, I forgot the guy's name now. I thought it was Dean something. Maybe, I forget. That was the vice something, whatever it was, advisor to Nelson Rockefeller when he was vice president. And he's writing this interesting article in the Washington Post where he talks about the year 2014. And again, this was written in October of October 25th, 2012, where he says the real Mayan calendar doomsday is probably, not even probably, is going to be March of 2014. The Mayans missed it. You know, that's basically what his article said. And he's talking about financial Armageddon. And since the Washington Post is an elitist organization, and since the elitists are, I guess, according to themselves, required to tell the rest of the sheep of what they're going to do to them before they do it to them, that article definitely served as a good purpose. You know, if you read the whole thing, which I did read it to you, and the fact that he's directly related to a elitist of the elite, one of the Rockefellers, you gotta kind of look at that and say, yeah, I think this guy might know what he's talking about. So, anyways, what he said talked exactly about what Lindsey Williams has recently said that his elite oil executive friend has told him, which is that in the next few months, 3 months or so, which will put us, you know, around February if you really take 3 months into account, but that's close to March. I mean, as the original article said, that this is going to happen. And in that article, isn't it interesting that the guy wrote, China's buying all this gold, and China, when this happens, this global problem, economically speaking, China's going to find out that you can't eat gold. So they already understand that all the gold's leaving the West and heading east. This refinery, I just read you, has just confirmed that is absolutely the case. China is the big one who is gobbling up all the precious metals right now. And I remember reading you guys a little article a little bit while back, I'm going to say maybe a month or two, I'm not sure, that talked about China. If you recall, China has basically made some agreements with like all the refineries, especially in Switzerland, most of the big ones anyways, in which they want all this gold, giving them massive orders. So now we have this, and they've actually spoken to the biggest refinery in Switzerland, and they physically said, yeah, we have full shifts now, 3 shifts, 24 hours a day. Every time we think it's getting ready to slow down, obviously from the price, we keep getting more and more orders, and it's going east, in other words, China. And other countries, but mainly China. So if that's the case, and it is the case, gotta get in front of that guy a little quick. So, if China's the one buying all this gold, and it is, and the elite know this, they've known this for the last few years, they even write an article in 2012 saying China's gonna find out you can't eat gold. What they're saying is there's gonna be economic collapse that's gonna affect everybody. It's gonna lead to this global currency reset, although that article didn't say that. It will lead to the global currency reset where all currencies are revalued by, as Lindsey Williams said, the IMF, of all places. And once they revalue your currency based on your assets of your country, you promise in the agreement you won't let it fluctuate more than 5% of what they set it at. So think about this for a second. Our Constitution in our country, United States of America, states that only Congress has the power to coin and set the value of money. Now, number one, we don't coin it anymore because we're not really coining gold and silver. And technically speaking, since the 10th Amendment is still on the books, and it does say that the states can use nothing but gold and silver as legal tender, it sure makes an interesting case that if someone ever had to fight in court, you know, foreclosure or anything, if they actually fought via that method and said, look, Your Honor, the 10th Amendment says nothing but gold and silver coins shall be used in payment of all debts, and we don't have that anymore. It's no longer currency in our country, and the 10th Amendment was not repealed, therefore I can't legally pay these debts, because these debts are actually going to be paid in US dollars, also known as Federal Reserve notes. So it'd be an interesting case to see. But the fact that our Congress is supposed to set the price, and they've said, well, we do, but we hand it off to the Federal Reserve, kind of. That's really where the price is being set. So if the IMF, when all this happens, says we're going to revalue everyone's currencies, and this is what we say your currency is worth, Mr. United States of America, and by the way, it's at least 30% less than where it's at now, how is our government going to say, okay, we agree, when in fact we have to set the price ourselves? Now, the easy solution for them would be, the IMF told us what they thought our currency should be, we agreed, therefore we're setting the price at the same thing that the IMF said. So technically we are setting the price, with the advice of the IMF, of course. So that would be one way they could do it. But a lot of people over the years have made the argument to everybody who collects gold and silver by saying, you can't eat gold and silver, you can't eat gold and silver. No, but if it's worth a lot of money, you can convert that to your country's currency by selling it, and then going and buying a lot of food, and you can then eat it. Eat quite a bit of food. So if all the countries are getting revalued by assets, and China is going to have the most assets because they've got the most gold, then China appears to have some good assets, which will appear to have a very strong dollar. The question is China on board with these 204 approximate countries who have already agreed that they're going to allow this currency revaluation to occur and accept whatever the IMF tells them the currency revaluation is? Is China going to be a part of that? I'm going to sit here and say I don't think so. I think that the BRICS nations and some other nations have already, like I said, I've been reporting, they've already come to agreements, and then when they're doing these meetings, they're public knowledge, and there's a key thing that keeps happening. The United States is not part of it, ever. We're not even invited. So if they're having these trade agreements, China, India, Russia, all these other countries, but us in the Western world are saying, well, we've got 205 countries that are going to revalue our currencies, and we're not going to be dealing with China and the rest of them, let's say, that's our plan, then it doesn't really matter what our currencies get revalued at, because China's not going to care, because they're not part of that agreement. Now, they still export stuff to us, but they probably are already understanding that the day's going to come when that's stopping, which is why they're already coming to these agreements with the BRICS nations to say, hey, when the United States fails, and they screw us and the rest of the world over, we're not going to do business, we're not going to export to them. So we're already preparing for that. We enjoy it now because we export quite a bit to them, but the inevitable's coming, so we're already making preparations to have gold in stock in our country, to back our currency, to show the rest of the world who doesn't want to go onto this plan, we've got something better to offer. And let's just say something here. Who's to say that of these 204 countries that have already agreed behind closed doors to this new currency revaluation based on their assets, let's say it happens and then the IMF starts saying, okay, United States, you're revalued, you guys are revalued, then all these other countries that you don't hear too much about that are part of the agreement, they're revalued, and then they say, whoa, wait a minute. I know we agreed that we were going to go with a revaluation based upon our assets, but IMF, you're saying we don't really have any assets, and we've got plenty of assets. Look at all this food or this or that we produce. What are you talking about? oh, no, we don't agree to that currency revaluation. That's not the right, it's not being revalued properly in our eyes. So then you may have people jumping ship and saying, you know what, China's a little more stable. They've already got their stuff backed by gold anyways. That's about as stable as you can get. We think we want to work with China. Then what happens? Because I will remind you of a long time ago Webbot report that talked about a currency crisis of the US dollar, in which I think it was the troops, not necessarily people as in US citizens abroad, but I think it was the troops. And you know, since we've got bases in all these countries across the world, the time came where the Webbot report was reading that something along the lines when people were trying to get back on an airplane, and I thought it was related to our troops, not necessarily our citizens that are abroad, but it could have been everybody, all United States citizens possibly, I can't remember. But it said that when they tried to get back onto a plane, go to an airport in some other country, and they've got US dollars, here's, you know, convert it to your currency so I can get a plane ticket and get out of here. Sorry, we don't accept US dollars anymore. Sorry about that. Gotta find another way. I don't have anything, I only have US dollars. Sorry, sir. Can't get on the plane. Something along those lines was gonna happen. So, all I can say is, if the biggest country of the world, which is now becoming China, is already, as I've said a million times, is stockpiling gold, and other countries are stockpiling gold and silver, etc., then you may want to do that too. Because no matter what happens, the price of gold and silver is going to be the stabilizer of the world. And that's going to be what you want when currencies are going up and down and going crazy. Take care.